Hi, I'm Chris. After suffering from CFS for 6 years, I've fully recovered. I created this healing program to guide and support you on your healing journey from CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, and related syndromes. If you haven't watched the previous videos in this series, I recommend starting from the beginning, as each video builds on the last. You can find them for free on my website at healing-space.online. In the previous video, we explored the varying severity levels of CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, as well as their prevalence. We learned how these conditions can range from mild to severe, significantly impacting daily life and affecting millions of people worldwide. In this video, we'll dive into the onset of these conditions and examine the common triggers that lead to their development. CFS, fibromyalgia, and long COVID can all develop either suddenly or gradually. A sudden onset is typically linked to a specific event, such as an infection, injury, surgery, or trauma. So one day we might feel completely fine, and then the next day the illness sets in and abruptly leaving us feeling exhausted or debilitated. This is often referred to as the crash. This type of onset has a clear starting point, often triggered by a specific situation or event. For example, after an acute COVID-19 infection, symptoms of long COVID may persist immediately after the initial illness, leading to a sudden onset of chronic symptoms. In CFS, a person might develop the illness suddenly after a viral infection like Epstein-Barr, where one day we feel fine and the next day experiencing severe fatigue and other debilitating symptoms. With fibromyalgia, a sudden onset could occur after physical trauma, such as a car accident or surgery, where the pain and other symptoms appear immediately following the event. A gradual onset, on the other hand, occurs more slowly over months or even years, without a clear initial event. There may not be a specific day or event we can point to as the start of the illness. Instead, symptoms build up over time, taking hold more subtly and progressively. For example, we may feel fully recovered from an acute COVID-19 infection, only to experience the onset of long COVID symptoms weeks or even months later, slowly emerging after the initial recovery. In CFS, symptoms like fatigue, cognitive issues, and pain may slowly develop over time, with no clear initial infection or event, gradually worsening until the illness takes hold. With fibromyalgia, the symptoms can emerge gradually over months or years, starting with an occasional pain or fatigue, and progressively become more persistent and widespread. Now, let's take a look at the typical triggers that can lead to these illnesses. While long COVID is triggered by a COVID-19 infection, CFS and fibromyalgia can be triggered by a variety of factors. These triggers can vary widely. Let's go through some of the most common ones together. Viral or bacterial infections. Often, our illness gets triggered through infections such as the Epstein-Barr virus, herpes virus, influenza, dengue virus, Lyme disease, mycoplasma, pneumonia, parasitic or fungal infections, or other flu-like infections. As already mentioned previously, long COVID gets typically triggered by a COVID-19 infection. Then there are physical traumas such as accidents, injuries, surgeries, childbirth, or excessive physical activity. These all can be triggers. Then we have emotional or psychological stress. So chronic stress or traumatic events such as abuse, anxiety, depression, or burnout, as well as major life changes like the loss of a loved one, divorce, or job loss, can contribute or act as triggers. Genetic predisposition. People with a family history of ME/CFS or fibromyalgia may be more likely to develop these conditions. While no specific genetic marker has been identified, genetics can increase our susceptibility. Environmental factors, exposure to toxins, pollutants, or chemicals might be potential triggers, although the evidence is not conclusive. Pre-existing health conditions. Having pre-existing conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, autoimmune diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, chronic inflammation, abnormal immune responses, diabetes, or cardiovascular diseases may increase the risk of developing our condition. It's important to understand that this list of triggers is not complete. Triggers can vary from person to person, and not everyone exposed to these factors will develop ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, or related illnesses. This variability highlights how complex these conditions are, involving multiple body systems and requiring a comprehensive approach for understanding, treatment, and healing. A key point to acknowledge is that whatever your trigger, a single event alone doesn't fully explain why we develop and remain stuck in these illnesses for weeks, months, or even years. Especially when others might have experienced the same trigger without developing these conditions. As we will later learn, there is no single factor that can explain ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, or long COVID. These illnesses develop over time, are incredibly complex, and depend on the interplay of several factors. Therefore, it is inaccurate to attribute these illnesses to just one trigger. A single virus, infection, injury, or exposure to chemicals or biological factor does not fully explain why we develop these illnesses and remain stuck in them for months or even years. Whatever the initial trigger after which we crashed, it alone cannot account for the persistent fatigue and wide range of symptoms we experience for such a long time. In my view, this is not only true for ME/CFS and fibromyalgia, but also for long COVID. The initial COVID-19 infection alone does not explain why long COVID develops in some individuals, while others recover without long-term effects. At the same time, I want to emphasize that this is not your fault. As we will later learn, it's a complex interplay of various factors such as our genetics, our conditioning, the stresses we face, and the way we react to those stressors. But for now, we need to acknowledge that others might have had the same viral infection or similar physical, emotional, mental, or psychological traumas, and they did not end up with ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, or long COVID. They might have a similar genetic setup, suffer from similar medical conditions, or have been exposed to the same environmental factors, but they did not develop these chronic illnesses. In short, we need to recognize that the trigger is just a straw that broke the camel's back. While a trigger typically initiates our illness, the real issue lies in the cumulative load of stress our system has been carrying, which we often don't notice. To heal, we need to address the root cause of our illness: excessive chronic stress and a dysregulated autonomic nervous system. Before we dive into how to address these issues and move towards healing, we'll first discuss how these illnesses differ from burnout and depression. This distinction is essential because people around us often suggest that we might simply be experiencing burnout or depression. In the next video, we'll explore the similarities and differences between these conditions. While they do share some common symptoms, as we'll see, they are fundamentally different. If you'd like to continue, you can watch the complete introductory video series for free on my website at healing-space.online. This video series is designed to support you in healing from ME, CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, and related syndromes. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and follow. Thank you, and see you in the next video.